A couple days ago, there was an article that appeared in the Wall Street Journal, and it was entitled, "Remember Todd Beamer of United 93." Todd Beamer was one of the many heroes among the passengers and crew of United Flight 93, who on 9/11 fought back against the terrorists who were planning on crashing the Boeing 757 into the U.S. Capitol. The subtitle of the article, though, was very significant. It said this: "His heroism on 9/11 drew from a lifetime of faith and character." And hopefully you know his story at least a little. Here on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, we realize too that a lot of our young people were born after that. But I think for those of us who are alive and can remember, it usually is a pivotal mark of our lives, of what we were doing on that morning. Well, Todd Beamer was a 32-year-old husband and father of two. He was a software salesman for Oracle. And his rallying cry on the plane that fateful day, "Let's roll," rests in America's memory. It's amazing and inspiring to think of what he and his fellow passengers did on that short flight and the people that they saved on the ground. The passengers crammed into the back of the plane were able to make phone calls, and as they got word on the attack on the World Trade Center, they discovered that their plane was going to be used in a similar way on a target in Washington, D.C. Beamer remained calm and poised under that tremendous pressure. The call with airphone operator Lisa Jefferson became the fullest account of what took place in the air that day. He remained on the line for 14 minutes, describing the direction of the plane, the hijacker's behavior, and eventually the passenger's decision to do something about it. Todd Beamer was a strong Christian. His faith was a primary motivator of his actions on that flight. His wife recounts that their life together was founded on faith during their years together at Wheaton College, and then while raising children and teaching Sunday school at Princeton Alliance Church in New Jersey. Before ending his call with Ms. Jefferson, Beamer asked, "Would you do one last thing for me?" "Yes, what is it?" she answered. "Would you pray with me?" They said the Lord's Prayer together in full, and other passengers joined in. Beamer then recited Psalm 23, concluding, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." Immediately after, he turned to his co-conspirators and asked, "Are you guys ready? Okay, let's roll." "Are you guys ready? Let's roll." It's the expression that Todd used whenever his wife and two young sons were leaving their home for a family outing. And he and the three other passengers who spearheaded the revolt, Jeremy Glick, Mark Bingham, and Todd Burnett, were athletes. The hijackers pitched the plane back and forth sharply in a failed attempt to shake their attackers off their feet. And the cockpit recording, filled with slams and shattering plates and howls, reveals that the terrorists chose to crash the plane in an empty field in Pennsylvania only after 6 minutes of the passengers' sustained assault trying to break into the cockpit. And their actions saved untold lives. On a very dark day, in the face of tremendous evil, their heroism and selflessness and willingness to sacrifice their lives to save others was a real light and source of hope for all of us who remember that day. And in the face of their heroism, I think it's important to ask ourselves, what would I have done in that situation? We don't know, we weren't there. But it bears asking ourselves, what would I have done in that situation? Would I be willing to sacrifice myself? Would I have the courage to confront terrible evil, even if it meant to sacrifice my life for others, to lay down my life for people I didn't even know? I think the subtitle of the article is key here, gives us a clue. His heroism on 9/11 drew from a lifetime of faith and character. Usually we don't just decide at the end of our life to be heroic and generous and sacrificial, although that's always possible with the miracle of grace. It will most likely be the natural conclusion, the culmination, and the consummation of our lives and the small choices we've made each and every day. Under pressure, we can only rely on our habits for action, choices and actions that have been repeated over and over again and become part of our personality and our character. Today, Jesus explains to his apostles, what exactly it means that he is the Christ, that he must suffer greatly and be rejected and be killed. It's not that things just aren't looking good for Jesus, or that things probably won't go well in Jerusalem, but rather by the fact that he is the God of love, that he is the Son of God, the Christ, the Messiah, the one sent into the world to destroy the power of Satan and the reign of sin and death. The world, which is under Satan's domination, will reject him, and he will give his life in suffering and sacrifice for our salvation. Because of sin, real love and the gift of salvation will always involve suffering and sacrifice. And then he tells his disciples, "Whoever wishes to come after me must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and that of the gospel will save it." It's important to recognize that it's not deny yourself, take up your cross, and be miserable, or just keep sacrificing and giving till you're all used up and taken advantage of. No, that's not what he's saying. At the heart of his command and his invitation to us, follow me. What could be more attractive than to hear the Lord himself say to each of us, follow me, come with me. At the heart of our Lord's standards for discipleship is that we are following him, simply walking in his footsteps, our eyes fixed on him as we strive to do what he does with the same divine power that he readily and generously pours out upon us. And then something amazing comes about. Joy and peace. Yes, Jesus shows us that the way of divine love in this world is that joy and peace flow from sacrifice and suffering in love. The cross is the only path to happiness. And hopefully, we all want to be heroes and do something great and meaningful with our lives, and even with our deaths. But that starts now with those small daily actions, the small daily choices to choose love over our selfishness, to deny ourselves, to take up the Lord's cross and follow him. That we make loving sacrificial actions a habit that become part of our personality and our character. The small sacrifices, the little things that we do each day to deny ourselves out of love for the Lord and others, the hidden ways in which we set aside our plans, our wants and wishes for the needs of others, are the way that we are training and preparing for the big moments of life, even the supreme moment of Christian witness. So as we mark the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and recall all of those who were heroes on that day, the passengers and crew of Flight 93, the first responders, the police officers, the firefighters of New York City, our military men and women who have served and sacrificed and died to keep us safe since then. I pray that we'll be inspired today and take up those little opportunities Jesus gives us to deny ourselves, to take up our cross, and to follow him.